Hello everyone, welcome back. So today we are going to discuss about testing in React apps, and it is going to be a very interesting video because in this video we are going to see how we can actually add the test to test our code and how we can actually run these test cases on our React components. So let's get started, guys. Before we actually run into our code changes, if you have not subscribed to my channel, you can subscribe to my channel. My channel name is Aamir, and here you can see all the videos of this projects for React.js. And I have uploaded almost 70 or 71 videos on React.js. And if you need any source code and you miss any source code in while working on the React projects, I have uploaded and shared this link in the description. Yesterday I have uploaded this one, the new project, complete Redux project. Here you can get all the source code files for Redux and Saga and also session storage. So today I'm going to discuss about the testing overview. So let's get started, guys. Okay, testing React apps. You can test React components like other JavaScript code components, right, guys? So it's not going to be very difficult. You can easily test all these components. So moving next. So let first start with types of testing. We have manual testing and we have automated testing. Manual testing is basically write code preview and test functionality on in the browser, right? When we write some code and we manually test the run the website and test the code changes. But there is some error problem. It's hard to test all the possible combinations and scenarios because on website we cannot test all line of codes. We cannot test all possible scenarios. So this is the disadvantage of this manual testing. But on the other hand, we have automated testing. It is not the replacement of the manual testing. Still, we do manual testing. A lot of QAs do manual testing because there are some cases where they need to do the manual testing. But we write extra code that runs and tests the main application code. Let's suppose I have written a logic for login page, and I need to write some extra line of codes. Unit test, I can say, it will test our logic that how that code was written. It actually matches the criteria. It actually check that all the things are working in the code are fine. If you pass the wrong values or if you pass the null or empty values, we are going to write some test cases, and it needs to be up to the benchmark to pass the test. And very technically, but allows you to test all the app code in form of building blocks. Basically, when we write the code, we actually test that particular code in some building blocks because we can have multiple unit tests in our application and we can test one by one each unit test. So different kind of automated tests. And today we are going to do the automation testing because previously we have almost done always the manual testing. So let's see. There are three type of testing. Unit testing. Test the individual building blocks. Like I just discussed, if I've written a complete logic, I will divide that particular code in some building blocks because in our application we have a lot of codes. So we cannot test all the functionalities, right, guys? So we test the application in some building blocks, and we can in the project we can have thousands or hundreds of unit tests. On the other hand, test the combination of multiple building blocks like integration testing. In integration testing, what we do, we have some combination of in one unit test we can have a single logic mostly, while in integration testing we can have multiple unit tests. So there are a lot of chances that integration test cases are not more than the unit test, because in unit test we cover all the source code, but in the integration we cover all particular scenarios, or I can say particular cases. And then the third one is end-to-end testing. This end-to-end testing is basically it tests complete scenarios in your application as a user would experience them. Like we sit with the user sometimes, we test the base main functionalities, we run the test cases, we see all the things are working fine. We can have very few E2E test cases in our project, but basically when user needs to understand or run our test our functionality. Partially, this is actually partially because that can be done manually as well as this. That is not only on the code side; that can also be on the manual as well, right? So, tools recommendation for testing. So, React actually recommends Jest. Jest is actually a JavaScript tester runner that lets you access the DOM via JS DOM. And the second one is React testing library. It is actually a set of helpers that let you test the React components without relying on their implementation details. So we do not need to rely on the implementation details for to test the components, and it is also a very lightweight solution for testing React components. Uh, Similarly, the Jest provides a great integration speed combined with powerful features. So we are going to explore these features, and most importantly, Jest are tool for running and testing and React. But on the other hand, test library is actually simulating React apps. So let me share you. So this is the URL which I'm going to share. This is a React JS, and this is the URL which I'm going to share in the description, as well as you can explore this URL and you can understand more in detail about these testings, right, guys? So now do a practical example of this. So guys, what I have done till now. Okay. Okay, so I come on one of the website here. So now I'm going to explain you two more things here. There's you can see here app test.js, and there's one more file test setup test.js. What actually the setup is actually the JavaScript file which actually help us to does some extra work, like if we need to set up some extra things, we can do all this in the setup test.js. But app.test.js, this is actually the file which actually where we actually write the test cases to test the app.js component, and we will write the logics here. And the way of writing the logics is I'm going to explain you a little bit. You need to write in that particular syntax so that you can test your codes. So now if you can see here, learn React. So if I go in the app.js, here you can find out learn React, right, guys? So if you can see, it was written that on the screen get text learn React, and if that text exists in the document, it needs to be passed. So I'm going to run this. This is basically a default application when we actually create the project. So I'm going to, you need to write npm test. So once you hit this npm test, it is actually going to show you, uh, it is actually going to run this test scripts and check that it's working fine or not. So it's running. Okay, great. Just taking some time. It's testing a test case, app.test.js. So you can see here all the test cases. There is one test case, and it gets passed, right, guys? So if I'm going to make some changes here, let's suppose Reacts. But you can see on the application, it's learn React, right? But now when I'm going to save this and check this one, it needs to actually fail this because we do not have any learn Reacts on our document, right? So let's check this out and see. I hope you are understanding the concept of all these things, that how it actually it's working. And don't worry about this code. I'm going to explain you in detail about this. Usually it do not take a lot of time, but right now I think my internet is a little bit down, so you need to stay patient on this thing. Thank you very much for cooperating. So you can see here this case actually get failed, and the reason is we can see here the error that actually this element, actually this text does not exist. So I'm going to revert this and I'm going to run this again. So now it's going to work. So now guys, you can see here this is actually uh, checking on our app component, and this is the default app component. But now I'm going to add some. I'm going to create one my own custom test case, and all I'm going to do is here I'm going to add one new folder. I'm going to say here components, and I'm going to add a new file hello.js. Good, looks good. It's get passed because right now we do have this blend react on our application. Okay, great. And now I'm going to say here I'm going to pass here two things. In the div I'm going to say h2 hello world. Great. And the second thing is our first test case in React. Cool. So now I'm going to remove all this code from here. Okay. And I'm going to call my going to remove this one as well as I'm going to say import, and here I need to pass actually the URL for our application. Okay, great. So first of all, I'm going to check this out. It's working fine or not. And also that looks good to me. I'm going to start the project. Okay. Since I have started the project, so here you can see we have run our application and it's working fine. However, because now in the app.js we have added our custom component. So now guys, we need to add this test.js file. So it was recommended that wherever you are adding your main component, you need to add this here like this. And now how we are going to create the test files. So here you have seen this render and this check the text and then compare that and return the result. So let me just show you and explain you how. So now we are writing the test that has three A's. The first A is arrange. Setup the arrange means set up the test data and test conditions and the test environment. For example, render, it will render the app component. And in my case, we are going to do, or in our case, we are going to do hello world, hello component to render that. And sometimes we set up test data like we get call data, dummy data from our projects, or like test conditions we need to pass here, and the act we are actually logic that should be tested. For example, I'm going to execute that particular code, or I'm going to click on that button and see the behavior of the button. It's going to turn its color, changes its color, or it's going to hit some actions or not. And the last thing is asserts. This basically compare the execution result with the expected result. Let's suppose we are expecting that 1, 2, 3 is the final result, but we are getting the 4, 5, 6. So in that case, our test case is going to fail, and code is not working as expected. So now let's just go in the code and just check this out how it's going to work. So if I go in the code, I am going to first of all I need to I'm going to write here test. So what test is? Test is actually by default imported. It's a globally name of the class. So I'm going to test, and the first argument here is description of what test is actually doing. So check hello world text renders, and a second argument is actually in our case is actually a nominal function. So here we need to pass three A's. First one is arrange, second is act, and the third one is asserts. Okay, cool. So arrange, I already told you that in arrange we are going to render our components. We actually call data. So once I write render, I'm going to say here, okay, hello. So we need to import this. So we will actually import this renders from, first we are going to write some import libraries for render. Render is actually import from testing library reacts, right? So now I'm going to say here, hello. So I need to write import hello from, okay, cool. And second act, in our case we have nothing because I'm going to just check the text is exist or not. And the last thing is compare or match the results. So I'm going to write const hello element. So now I'm going to say on screen we have by default a library method here screen dot, and once I write screen we can find all text by alternate name, display value, label text, and we can see there are a lot of, we can find the values, we can actually get the values, and also we can get by text or title or test IDs. So in my in our case, I'm going to write get by text, and here I'm going to write the text hello world. And the second argument we have here is exact. Right? I'm going to show you here. If I pass exact here, if I pass false here, it will not check the exact words. If in the last we have 1 to 3, if I miss something 1 to 3, it will get back the result as a true because hello world exists here. So I'm going to write false here, and now I'm going to check expect. Like I already discussed, I'm going to say hello element, and now to be in document. So we can see here to be called, to be enabled. We have a lot of options. So in our case, we are going to write to be in the document. Okay, great. So now I'm going to run this test cases and check. Let's suppose I'm going to say true. Now let's see. Because we have written the name like hello world and expression mark. Needs to fail, but let's check this out. What happens? So it's running. It's taking some time. So I'm expecting the errors here because we already said that exact match of the word, and we have not written the word like this hello world. We have written something hello world exclamation mark. But let's check that maybe it's going to work fine. And it's running the two cases here app.test.js and this hello.test.js, two files. It's testing all these two files, and we are expecting the fails here, two fails here, which is fine because the first fail actually, let's discuss about the errors first. Okay, cool. So the first error here is actually this one, hello world. So we have said that exact word, so hello world is not actually the exact word, we need to pass some like this, explanation mark is missing. So now I'm going to say here exact words needs to be false. Second error is actually we are getting the second error because app.test is actually finding this learn React.js, and we have already removed this. So I'm going to delete this one so that it works fine for us, because we have updated this app.js file, and now we do not have such text exist in our application. So now if we go and see, okay, and this time we are expecting that we are not going to face any errors, because we said that that's okay if we do not have the exact words, but the words we mentioned, it needs to be matched. That looks fine. So great, and our one case failed because that was the previous result is showing, because at that time we have not deleted the application.js, so it's running again. So cool, guys. So now you can see here our test gets passed because a hello world exists there, and you can have a lot of multiple situation where you can get by ID or titles, and a lot of other things like find the words with some particular scenarios. And so this is, you can see a test get passed, and this is how you can actually write your custom test cases, and you can run those test cases. And I hope you understand the importance of these three A's: arrange, act, and asserts. So thank you guys, thank you for watching these videos, and I hope you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe and like my channel, and keep supporting me, keep liking and giving comments. Thank you.